Oh, Bill, don't. That phone was broken. Yous knows it can't be ringing. This can't be no good. Yes? Who is it? Oh, what is it? Yes? Yes? I see. Yes, of course. I will. No, I won't forget. I don't. Bye. It's Dad again. All's right. Who was that? What's going on? It was Kathy. She wants to see me. Kathy, how'd she get through on that broken phone of yours? I don't know. It hasn't worked since the day you heard her fooling around with some guy on it, and you've done slammed it against a wall. Yes. Now she calls you on it, and it works. But only while she's calling. Then afterward, it's still broken. Yes. And your mysterious dream lady is nowhere to be found. Nowhere. Orville, this ain't right. This just ain't right. I don't like the sounds or smells of this at all. It has all the markings of a setup. Yes, it does. But what am I to do? If I'm to get to the bottom of it, I must let myself be set up. I realize all of this is mysterious, convenient, a little too panned out. Miss Kathy, this demon, both showing up at the same time. My phone working only for Kathy. A connection. Sure, there's got to be one. But where? What? And how? I've got no proof. I can't go running off half-cocked without any proof. I've got to meet her, if only to find out where this leads. You're sure you're not meeting her to find out where your heart is leading you? No, Bunsen, not this time. This is bigger than a broken heart. This is bigger than me. This is bigger than anything I've been involved with before. This is eternity we're dealing with here. I've got to go because my soul is at stake here. Maybe all of ours. Who knows? I've got to go if I'm to find out what's going on, don't I? Yeah, I guess. Maybe you do. But I'll be keeping tabs on you the entire time. You aren't going down there without a monitor. So be it. If you gets into a jam, I's got your back. Only, if we both get into a jam, who will get us out of it? We can't have Glee getting physically involved in this. And Harold is gone, remember? That's a good point. Well, So Dad about covers it, Jack. Orville is off seeing Miss Kathy, trying to find out if there is some kind of connection between this dream lady of his and Miss Kathy, or not. It's all pretty confusing at the moment, but him getting that phone call on a broken phone from Miss Kathy, with all this craziness going on, we can't rule anything out. Anyway, Glee is off station doing her monthly grocery shopping, so that just leaves me and Ilma up here. I'm monitoring Orville's trip to Miss Kathy's, and I's on call to leave should he get in a jam. I can't leave Elmer up here all by himself, so I was hoping you'd kinda hang out up here till someone gets back.
Of course, Bunsen. Anything to help in a jam. That's what we police officers are here for. How are things with the Spectre? Still active?
I don't think yous is gonna have to worry about much tonight. Things is pretty quiet when Orville is off the station. He seems to be the epicenter of activity. Yeah, when he's here things do go kinda noisy. But when he's gone, things are normal, just like now. You almost forget we've got any major issues going on. Almost. It's always in the back of your mind. You never really forget something like that.
Of course not. When you're in the eye of a hurricane, any gust of wind will put you on alert. How's Elmer been weathering the storm? The stress hasn't gotten to him, has it? Led him into reverting into old habits?
No, not at all. I think he's taking it better than the rest of us, actually. It's all just bouncing off him, really. He's a tough kid, that Elmer. Nothing strikes him and sticks.
Really? That surprises me.
Don't use worry none about Elmer. After all he's been through, dealing with something as wispy as a spook won't affect him at all.
I hope you're right, Benson. He's come so far. I'd hate to think of anything upsetting the strides he's made these last few months.
Oh no, Orville.
The Griever's in trouble again.
And I's gotta go rescue him.
I could do it if necessary.
If that alarm is sounding, yeah it is. Orville issued it himself. He's in a jam and he needs help pronto. You'll be alright up here, won't you, Jack?
As right as rain. Don't you worry about Elmer or I. We'll be just fine. You just see what's going on with Captain Empty and bring him back safe and sound.
You got it. I'll see you guys later.
Well, Elmer, what's this I hear about you being made camp leader?
Oh, that ain't nothing. It's just a title they give some kids who've been there a while, that's all.
That's not how I hear it. The way I heard it is that you've done pretty darn well since you've stopped using fumes. You've been pretty instrumental in helping others stop using too. Gotten a few kids through some really tough withdrawal times. Now you're working with some of the younger kids to keep them from ever getting near drugs to begin with. I've been hearing a lot of good things about you, young man.
Miss Kathy sure does like to flap her jaw a lot, doesn't she?
It's not just Kathy, Elmer. A lot of people have good things to say about you, which I might add is a pleasant change of pace from how things used to be.
Yeah, I guess it is, isn't it?
It couldn't be any worse than the time you threw up on Neil's mom, could it?
Don't remind me. That was rock bottom. That's when I knew I'd really crossed the line.
If you'd continued and crossed even one more line, you wouldn't be in Waterford anymore. I can tell you that.
I know it, Jack. I know it.
Which makes all the good things I'm hearing about you now all the more impressive.
I just don't feel like I'm worthy of all the good things people are saying about me, that's all.
Why is that?
I'm not doing anything that anyone else who was always healthy or good doesn't do. So why should I get any praise? I'm just living a clean life. Why should that be worthy of so many people's praise?
Because one thing separates you from everyone else. You weren't always healthy. You had to fight your way back from the serious illness of the soul. That makes you different. That you were able to do it is darn impressive, my friend. No matter what you say or what you feel, you'll always be impressive to me, and to a lot of others as well.
I guess I just don't see it or feel it.
There have been others throughout history who have felt as you do.
Really? Who?
Well, Gideon, for one. He was poor and the least in his father's house, a man who could not even kill a rabbit. It was a man God chose to slay kings, maybe because God knew he could trust Gideon, because Gideon had God in his heart. Then the men of Israel said unto Gideon, Rule thou over us, both thou, and thy son's son also, for thou hast delivered us from the hand of Midian. And Gideon said unto them, I will not rule over you, neither shall my son rule over you, the Lord shall rule over you.
I've heard it said by my Sunday school teacher that God chooses the weakest people to do the strongest acts, or the fewest number of people to take down the largest armies.
Your Sunday school teacher is exactly right, Elmer. Gideon didn't feel that he was worthy of God's favor, maybe just as you don't feel worthy of the praise you've been bestowed with. Do you know what it's called to receive something you don't deserve?
No, what, Jack?
Grace, unmerited favor. It's something you don't deserve, but get anyway, because the one giving it to you thinks you deserve it, so it's yours. The people giving you praise think you deserve it, so it's yours, just as God saw something in Gideon, which made him fall under God's grace.
I don't understand grace at all.
It's a mystery for sure, so I don't think you're alone. But what I'm trying to tell you is that sometimes we get things that we deserve, but we just don't know why we deserve it. We don't know for a long time, so we'll just have to accept the wisdom of others that we deserve it.
Like Gideon did?
Like Gideon did.
Whatever became of him?
Let's find out.
Oh no, not another old movie!
It's a short old movie, so try not to complain too much. Besides, you did ask what became of Gideon, didn't you?
Yeah, guess I did. Okay, let's see what became of him. But one of these days I'd like to meet an adult who could make a point without showing an old movie. Just one adult, for goodness sake.
In the yesteryears of centuries ago, in a small portion of this vast world of ours, there lived a people called the children of Israel. From them came certain men and women through whom God revealed himself to all mankind. One of these was Gideon the Liberator. God had given the people of Israel the land of Canaan, as he had promised. Under Joshua, the Israelites served the Lord and enjoyed his blessings. But as time went on, they made friends with the heathen tribes of Canaan and began to worship their idols. Chief among these was Baal, and the more the Israelites bowed down to the idol, the more trouble came upon them. Midianites, a fierce desert people from the countries southeast of Israel, invaded the land, robbing and destroying, taking away even the crops and animals, so that nothing was left for the people to eat. Many of the Israelites fled to the mountains and lived in caves like frightened animals. In their trouble, the Israelites remembered God and again cried to him for help. Then the Lord Jehovah sent a prophet to remind the people that they had brought all this trouble upon themselves.
Thus said the Lord, the God of Israel, I led you up from Egypt and brought you out of the place where you were slaves. I freed you from the Egyptians and from all your enemies, and I drove out the people ahead of you and gave you their land. And I said to you, I am the Lord your God. Do not worship the gods of the Amorites in whose country you are living. But you have not obeyed the Lord.
The Israelites knew that the prophet had spoken the truth, and many of them were sorry and repented for the way they had broken God's commandment by worshiping the idols of the Amorites. Then God, in his mercy, planned to send someone to deliver them. One day, Gideon, the son of Joash, was threshing wheat in his vineyard, where the Midianites would not be likely to see him. Suddenly, he was aware that someone was watching him. An angel of the Lord had come to bring Gideon a message, but at first Gideon did not realize that this was a heavenly visitor.
The Lord is with you, you mighty man of courage.
If the Lord is really with us, why then has all this happened to us? And what has become of the wondrous deeds of which our fathers told us when they said, did not the Lord bring us up from Egypt? For now the Lord has forsaken us and given us into the hand of the Midianites.
Go in this might of yours and save Israel from the Midianites. I am sending you, am I not?
Lord, how can I save Israel? My clan is the weakest in Manasseh, and I am the least important in my family.
But I will be with you, and you shall defeat the Midianites.
If you are really pleased with me, then give me a proof that you are really speaking to me. Don't leave, I beg you, until I come back and bring you an offering.
I will stay until you return.
When Gideon returned with gifts of bread, meat, and broth, the angel of the Lord told him to place the bread and meat on a rock and pour the broth over them. Then Gideon received the proof for which he had asked. Just as the burning bush had been a sign of God's presence to Moses, so the flaming food convinced Gideon that this was the Lord who was with him. But when Gideon turned to him again, the angel had disappeared. Then Gideon became afraid, but God spoke to him, comforting him.
It is well with you. Do not fear. You will not die.
Then Gideon built an altar at that place and called it Jehovah Shalom, which means the Lord is peace. That same night, God spoke to Gideon again, commanding him to tear down the altar of Baal, which was on his father's land, and there to build another altar where the people might worship the Lord. And Gideon said he would do this, even though he knew how angry it would make all those who worshiped Baal. And because Gideon feared his family and the people of the town, he didn't dare to tear down the altar of Baal by daylight. But one night, with the help of 10 loyal servants, Gideon tore down the altar of Baal and built an altar to the Lord. The next morning, when the people came to worship Baal and found their altar torn down and the pillar of their goddess Asherah destroyed, they were angry.
Who did this? None of us would do such a thing.
I know who did this. It was Gideon, the son of Joash.
Gideon must die. Let us go and demand of Joash that he turn his son over to us.
He is right. Gideon must die. Gideon must die.
So the worshippers of Baal hurried to Joash and demanded that he bring Gideon out to them, that they might kill him. But as Joash listened, he realized that Gideon had done what was right, and he spoke against Baal in defense of Gideon.
Are you fighting for Baal? Are you going to save him? Whoever fights for Baal, let him be put to death. If Baal is a god, let him fight for himself, because his altar has been torn down.
The worshippers of Baal realized that Joash's words were true. If the God they served were really God, wouldn't he have punished Gideon himself? So they began to have doubts about the power of Baal, and they no longer tried to punish Gideon. This left Gideon free to carry out God's plan, that he should lead Israel to victory over her enemies. Gideon's task was not an easy one. A large army of Midianites had crossed the Jordan and were camping in the valley of Jezreel. Moreover, the Amalekites and other tribes from the east had joined forces with them, so that Israel's defeat appeared certain. But filled with the Spirit of the Lord, Gideon sent messengers throughout Israel to call the soldiers together. And while he waited for them, Gideon asked God for another proof that he was the man who should save Israel from the Midianites.
If you really are going to use me to save Israel, as you said, then give me a proof. I will lay a fleece of wool on the threshing floor. If dew falls only on the fleece and the ground all around it is dry, then I'll know that you will save Israel by me, as you have said.
The next morning, Gideon hurried to the threshing floor where he had spread the wool fleece. To his surprise, the ground around the fleece was perfectly dry. But the fleece was so drenched with dew that the water wrung from it was enough to fill a bowl. Then Gideon asked God for still another proof.
Don't be angry with me, O Lord, if I ask for one more thing. Please let me make another test with the fleece. Let it be dry only on the fleece, and let there be dew all over the ground.
The next morning, Gideon again hurried to the fleece. This time, all the ground around was wet with dew, and only the fleece was dry. Then Gideon knew that God was ready to help him lead his people to victory. The Israelites must have been confident that Gideon was acting under God's direction, for 32,000 men answered the call to arms. But God told Gideon that this was too many. A victory over the Midianites might seem to come from great numbers rather than from the Lord. Then God told Gideon to let all those who were afraid of the Midianites return home. And more than 2/3 of the soldiers did so. There were only 10,000 left.
But God told Gideon, there are still too many. Take the soldiers down to the water. Place in one group everyone who laps up the water like a dog, and in another group, everyone who kneels down to drink. And there were 300 who lapped the water. All the rest knelt down to drink. Then God said to Gideon, by the 300 men who lapped the water, I will give you the victory. Let all the rest go home.
300 men seemed very few compared to the large army of the Midianites. But that night, to reassure Gideon, God sent him and his servant Purah to the enemy camp where they overheard the Midianites talking.
I had a dream. A cake of barley bread rolled into the camp of Midian, struck a tent and turned it upside down, so that the tent laid flat.
That means the sword of Gideon, a man of Israel. Into his hands, God's given the whole camp of Midian.
When Gideon heard the dream explained, he knelt down and thanked the Lord. Then he hurried back to his camp to tell the Israelites the joyful news. Arise, for the Lord has given the whole camp of Midian to you. That night, the Israelites prepared for battle in a strange way. Each man carried a horn and a lighted torch hidden in a pitcher. At Gideon's command, they quietly marched toward the enemy's camp to surround it on 3 sides. And at midnight, when the Midianites were asleep, Gideon gave the signal for attack. The noise of the horns and the crashing of the pitchers and the glare of the torches, the shouting of Gideon's name, all this convinced the Midianites that they were surrounded by a great army. And so they ran away through the darkness, trampling and fighting each other in their confusion. Then Gideon sent messengers to the people of Israel, telling them to pursue the Midianites. And so Gideon and his people won a great victory, and once more, peace came to Israel. In their gratitude, the people of Israel wished to make Gideon their king.
Rule over us, you, and then your son, and your grandson after you, for you have saved us from the Midianites.
I will not rule over you, nor will my son rule over you. The Lord is ruling over you.
And so Gideon reminded his people that the Lord had delivered them, and that they should faithfully serve him as their king. And the country had peace as long as Gideon lived, and the people remained true to God.
Jack, can I tell you something?
Sure, kid. You can tell me anything.
No, I mean, like, if I tell you something, it won't go anywhere else.
That depends on what you tell me. You tell me you're about to blow up the station. I can't sit on news like that.
No, I'm not do anything like that, but I do need to talk about...
Well, if you want me to keep something confidential, I will. If you tell me something, it goes no further. But if I think it's something that someone else ought to know, I'll make sure that I hound you day and night until you tell them. Fair enough?
Yeah, I guess that's fair enough.
So what's on your mind, Elmer?
Those people, the kids, the ones who originally got me into sniffing fumes, they're riding me again, trying to get me back on the habit.
You haven't backslid, have you?
No, of course not. But they are shoving the stuff at me night and day, and I have to admit it's hard not to.
Oh, kid, how long has this been going on?
Almost since the day I quit.
Have you told anyone else?
No,
You're stronger than I thought, weathering the storm on your own.
not only that,
What else?
now they're on me, trying to get me to use my position in the camp to get the other kids, the young ones, to get them hooked on the fumes as well.
Elmer.
The drug pushers, the adults with their praise, Miss Kathy wanting me to be camp leader, Bunsen, Orville, everyone with their expectations and demands. Jack, it's all too much for me. I can't take it all anymore. I just can't take it. I'm not strong enough.
That's what I was afraid of. Only I had no idea so much was happening to you. Nobody can handle this much on their shoulders, kid. Nobody can. What the?
That's been happening more and more lately.
What?
Things flying around on their own.
I thought things were quiet when Orville was gone.
They are. This is the first time it's happened when he was gone.
Weird. Well, it doesn't seem to be. Well, I'll be. Anyway, Elmer, I'm glad you came to me with this, because as a police officer, maybe I can help take some of the pressure off of you. I definitely can do something about the flow of drugs around you.
Oh no! I can't be known as a narc, Jack. Even the young kids in the camp wouldn't trust me if I faint on the drug pushers.
If you don't, Elmer, someone else will eventually take the spot those pushers have you lined up for. I guarantee it. Someone will get to those young kids. Someone will infiltrate the camp and get to them unless you act to stop them now. The future well-being of those kids is in your hands.
Just what I need, more pressure. I've done nothing wrong, Jack. I did everything that I was supposed to do. Everything that I should have, I went straight. I'm living a good life. Why is my life still so miserable and hard?
Maybe it's a test.
What do you mean?
As Jesus was put to the test with the Roman coin, and when they were come, they said unto him, Master, we know that thou art true, and carest for no man, for thou regardest not the person of men, but teachest the way of God in truth. Is it lawful to give tribute to Caesar or not? Shall we give, or shall we not give? But he, knowing their hypocrisy, said unto them, Why tempt ye me? Bring me a penny, that I may see it. And they brought it, and he saith unto them, Whose superscription? And they said unto him, Caesar's. And Jesus answering said unto them, Render to Caesar the things that are Caesar's, and to God the things that are God's. And they marveled at him.
But I'm doing good. Why should I still be made to suffer through a test?
Remember, Jesus did no wrong, and he was still made to suffer too, on the cross at Calvary.
Let me guess. Movie time again.
It'll help, kid. It'll help.
Fine. What could it hurt?
When I was a kid, I always loved movies about Jesus. Since I didn't live during the time Christ walked the earth, seeing him on film was kind of like the next best thing. At least that's how it felt to me when I was young.
I haven't seen too many movies about Jesus.
Well, now's a good time to start. Come on, kid. Let's get us a front row seat.
Strong Mother, there's a Roman soldier.
Where's the house of Elpheus, the leather worker?
I don't know.
This is the village of Far East, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
I've been too far from guessing games. Where will I find Elpheus?
You pass the street, sir. It's the second one back there.
Run quick by the back way and warn your father.
And it's the third. No, the fourth house.
If it isn't, I'll get back.
It is, sir. I swear it.
You're looking for Elpheus, sir?
Yes.
He's not in there, sir. He left the village 2 days ago. There's no one in there, sir.
It's too dangerous. We shouldn't stay here another moment. Who puts people to death? The Romans.
No one there, eh?
When they execute a leader,
Keep going. Fast.
Please, at least wait till we've had facts instead of rumors. All we've heard is mere gossip about some rabbi having been put to death in Jerusalem.
A young rabbi from Galilee. How many men fit that description?
More than one. Remember, my friend, Althea's kinsman is traveling with the Nazarene. Surely he'd let us know if any trouble...
If he hasn't been executed with all the rest, you stay and greet the Roman swords, not me. But if you'll take my advice, you'll scatter before it's too late.
Which of you is Elpheus?
I'm not. Not I. I was just leaving, if you'll excuse me.
I am Elpheus, and these men are merely my guests for the evening.
Thomas said I might find others meeting with you.
Men will say anything under torture. We just stopped in for a moment.
Our interest is in God, not in any revolt against Rome.
And I'm here on my own business, not Caesar's. Your cousin Thomas has been delayed in Jerusalem. When he found out I was traveling this way, he asked me to give you a message. My name is Cornelius.
Welcome to my home. Rachel, water and linen for our guest, my dear. Then food and wine. Let me have your helmet.
Long journey over those mountains. And a dusty one.
Slip out and look around. This may be a Roman trap.
There now. I feel better.
And the message from Thomas?
Does it concern the Nazarene named Jesus?
Was he put to death?
Simply curious, that's all.
My cousin, has he been arrested?
And what did the Galileans' other followers?
One at a time, one at a time. Your cousin is free and in good health. So are all the Galileans' close followers. All but one, Judas of Kerioth, who died by his own hand.
And the Galilean?
He is dead?
He was crucified.
No, what reason?
Wait till they go on. Thomas said, tell all you know. Leave out nothing. Shall we make ourselves comfortable? Up to a month ago, I was stationed to the north, beyond the Sea of Tiberias, which you call Galilee. There, my 100 had the luck to capture a thieving murderer called Barabbas.
Barabbas?
Oh, I know. You've heard of him as a patriot of the people, leader of a zealot band. But if you'd found your outpost brutally massacred, your young sentries knifed to the back, well, at any rate, we cornered him, crushed his rabble army, put him in chains, marched him to Jerusalem for the honor of being sentenced to death by the procurator. I gave my testimony and listened as Pilate tried to question the prisoner. But Barabbas sneered at the governor, refused to answer, and when sentence of death was passed, cursed as the soldiers led him off to prison. I was commended and ordered to stay in the city with my men until the end of the Passover feasts.
Centurion!
Longinus. Where in the Empire did you drop from?
6 months ago, Carthage. Before that, Alexandria. Welcome to duty in the city.
How'd you know I'd drawn that?
Who do you think suggested keeping you here to the procurator? Maneuver to share his quarters with you. This way, we'll take the shortcut through the temple courtyard.
Well, they've changed things around since I was last here.
Changed?
Used to look like a stockyard. Bullocks and goats, sheep and pigeons for sacrifices. Money changers tables over there.
They were there until 3 days ago. New young teacher, a man from the north, drove them out single-handed.
One man?
One man. To be exact, that man. Jesus Bar Joseph from Nazareth in Galilee.
I think I've heard of him.
If you'd arrived here 4 days ago, you'd have heard of nothing else.
Oh?
Last Sunday morning, I had a report of trouble at the gate of the Lily. So I went down to investigate. The next thing I knew, I was caught up in a crowd shouting, "Hail the Messiah! Hail to Jesus of Nazareth, King of the Jews!" They threw down their cloaks for him to ride on. He was mounted on a donkey, walking on a carpet of robes and palm branches. I was sure we had a revolution on our hands, but I was jammed so tightly in the mob I couldn't get out to alert the guard. He rode up to the temple gates, looked at them with tears in his eyes, and went away.
Just like that?
Just like that. And believe me, I was delighted to see him go. The next morning, he was back here in the temple courtyard, storming at the changers and sellers for turning a sacred place into a thieves' den. They scattered before him like rats. You know he's a man of courage.
Well, I wouldn't call the money changers a valiant sort of enemy.
Oh, I don't mean just for baiting them, but for having the nerve to come back here. He must realize that the high priest can stand no such opposition.
Have you not read this scripture? The very stone which the builders rejected.
There go two of Caiaphas' closest aides. Let's stroll over and see what's happening.
This was the Lord's doing, and it is marvelous in our eyes.
We know that you are true, and do not regard the position of men, but truly teach the words of God. Is it lawful to pay taxes to Caesar or not?
A very choice trap. If he says pay, the entire crowd turns against him.
Don't pay and I arrest him for treason.
Well, come, teacher, answer. Should we pay them or should we not?
Why put me to the test? Because of your great authority and wisdom? Show me a coin. Whose likeness and inscription is on it? Why, Caesar's. Render unto Caesar the things that are Caesar's, and unto God the things that are God's.
Too bad he isn't a Roman. We could use men of his cut.
You better go back to Galilee, or at least get out of Jerusalem, or he'll be a corpse.
For twisting the beards of two courtyard lawyers?
No. No, for preserving the peace that Augustus demands of this province. Oh, I know you make a point of ignoring politics. But this sovereign state of Israel is a vast steaming cauldron ready to boil over. If it does, we'll all be scalded. Wine from Hebron.
Well, without trouble, there'll be no need for armies. And we'd be slaving on a farm or drudging away in a mine. Personally, I prefer the Emperor's salt.
It's fed me, and I've bled for it. But if I have to bleed again, I prefer doing it for profit or glory, not to cover up another man's stupidity.
Such as?
Marrying a lady from the purple. Well, almost from the purple. Might have bought Pontius a governor's throne, but it didn't give him a statesman's mind. He's still a soldier, always will be.
What's the matter with that?
You've been out in the desert sun far too long.
Not me. I've served as a statesman before. I'll take a soldier commander any day. When trouble starts, a soldier crushes it fast. He doesn't dicker and argue till the enemy's entrenched in the best positions.
If it was years ago, we had a cohort at every 10-mile post, I'd agree. The empire's grown too large. Our troops are spread far too thin. We've 28 legions to control the world. 3 in Britain, 5 on the Rhine, 9 spread the length of the Danube, and 11 split from Dacia through Arabia and Egypt to Carthage and Spain. And we've won, only one, in all Judea. Well, this is it. There's your bed. I had your trunk brought over. Make yourself at home.
That bed looks good.
We can't rule through crushing power anymore, my friend. In these times, we need the help of such local potentates as we can bribe and use. You mean Herod, as Herod was, before his libertine living cost him the scanty respect and obedience he had. Now we appoint the high priest, manipulate through the temple. Unfortunately, this present one, Caiaphas, is more greedy and grasping than his father-in-law Annas was.
So I've heard. But there must be a limit to even an Israelite's patience.
Show them a leader that'll stand up to this Caiaphas, and the cauldron will really boil. Don't think Caiaphas doesn't know it.
Perhaps it might be better if the Nazarene did leave the city.
If he doesn't, Caiaphas may feel forced to silence him. Maybe the Nazarene's followers will rise up to protest. Oh, but enough of this gloomy croaking. It's time to dine. And I know an inn not far away. The lamb is cooked with wine.
My men were given the honor of guarding the palace, where the procurator was staying during his visit to Jerusalem. Although I was kept busy with routine matters, I was unable to put Longinus' predictions from my mind. I kept thinking of the Nazarene. I guess that's why, one off-duty moment, I acted on impulse.
Wait.
You. Aren't you the man I saw in the temple court, standing by the side of the Nazarene?
Yes.
Come here. You're one of his followers. What's your name?
Thomas.
Thomas, huh? Tell him for his own good to leave Jerusalem at once. Understand?
I understand. But I doubt if he'll do it.
Then I'll order him to go. Where's he staying?
In Bethany.
Way up there? When's he coming down the hill?
At sundown. We're meeting for the Feast of the Unleavened Bread.
I'll be on duty then. Give him the message as I told you. Tell him it's a centurion's command.
I'll tell him.
Thomas.
Yes?
Let me know what he does. That is how I came to know your cousin. And how I learned later of the things which transpired that night. Their meeting place was in an upper room. And even then, the Nazarene must have known what still lay in the future.
I have earnestly desired to eat this Passover with you before I suffer. For I tell you, I shall never eat it again until it is fulfilled in the kingdom of God. Blessed art thou, Lord God, King of the world, who hath brought forth bread from the earth. Take, eat. This is my body, given for you. This do in remembrance of me. Blessed art thou, O Lord God of the world, who hath created the fruit of the vine. Drink ye all of this, for it is my blood of the New Testament, which is shed for you and for many, for the remission of sins. I tell you, I shall not drink again of this fruit of the vine until that day when I drink it new with you in my Father's kingdom. But behold, the hand of him who betrays me is on the table. For the Son of Man goes as it has been determined. But woe to the man by whom he is betrayed.
Master, who do you mean?
None of us would betray you.
Master, how can you doubt our loyalty?
I'd never do such a thing.
Even as they were affirming their loyalty, there was one who slipped out to betray him.
Why didn't the others stop him?
Because they didn't suspect him.
But the Nazarene had just said he would be betrayed.
I know. But as Thomas explained it to me, each man loved Jesus so dearly, the very thought of betrayal seemed impossible. Besides, the one who went out was so well trusted, he had been chosen as the keeper of their purse. And they may have assumed that he was going to pay for the food they'd eaten, or to give alms to the poor. Thomas said they were all eager to assure Jesus of their loyalty, even argued as to which of them would be foremost as his follower. But the Nazarene was displeased by their rivalry.
Who has followed him longest? Answer me that.
Who forsook the most? I could have been a wealthy man.
Did you leave a home and servants as I did? No.
My children. The kings of the Gentiles exercise lordship over them, and those in authority are called benefactors. But not so with you. Rather, let the greatest among you become as the youngest, and the leader as one who serves. For which is the greater, one who sits at table or one who serves? Is it not the one who sits at table? But I am among you as one who serves. You are those who have continued with me in my trials. As my Father appointed a kingdom for me, so do I appoint one for you. Simon, behold, Satan demanded to have you, that he might sift you like wheat. But I have prayed for you that your strength may not fail. And when you have turned again, strengthen your brethren.
Turned again. I have not turned away. Lord, I am ready to go with you to prison and to death.
I tell you, Peter, the cock will not crow until you 3 times deny that you know me.
No, Master, no. Not I. Never would I deny you. When the supper was ended, Thomas said, he led them out to a nearby garden called Gethsemane.
Wait here and pray that you may not enter into temptation. Father, if thou art willing, remove this cup from me. Nevertheless, not my will, but thine be done. Peter. So, could you not watch with me 1 hour? Watch and pray that you may not enter into temptation.
Master,
The spirit indeed is willing, but the flesh is weak. Behold, the hour is at hand. The Son of Man is betrayed into the hands of sinners.
Master.
Judas, would you betray the Son of Man with a kiss?
That's the man. Lead him.
As I said, I had no knowledge of these happenings until later. But I wasn't the only one kept unaware of Caiaphas' moves that night. While the city lay sleeping, he had Jesus brought to Annas' home, where a carefully chosen section of the Sanhedrin questioned him till daybreak.
In Annas' home?
Yes.
You're sure of that?
Peter followed, mingled with the soldiers in the courtyard.
Well, they have no right to do that. Our laws provide for trial before the whole Sanhedrin, openly in the temple.
That's true. Trial in the dead of night? That's not justice, it's mockery.
Be that as it may, Caiaphas did it.
No wonder all the decent people of Israel have turned against him.
'Tis a bitter thing being conquered, but being betrayed by one of your own.
My first knowledge of what had occurred came just as the day broke, when, having agreed on his guilt, they brought him to the palace where Pilate was staying. They wouldn't enter the judgment hall themselves. Some religious business about not defiling themselves by entering a Gentile's house during the Passover. So I had the task of waking the procurator and telling him what they sought. Needless to say, he wasn't in the best humor when he came out to them.
Good morning, Your Excellency.
If a matter weren't of such urgency.
Hi. We regret urgently having interfered.
But it will only take a moment of
This
your...
man you've brought to me, of what is he accused?
He incited the people to riot in the very courtyard of the temple. Why, he even claims to be the Messiah, the Christ, the Son of God.
He encourages his followers to hail him as the King of all the Jews.
These affairs are yours, not Rome's. Take him. Judge him according to your laws.
We have, Excellency, and found him deserving of death.
All we ask is your endorsement of our findings.
If he were not guilty, we wouldn't have brought him here.
Wait here.
I have heard many men examined, questioned more than a few myself. But if the Nazarene had guilt or evil in his nature, I couldn't detect it, nor could Pilate.
Are you a king, then?
You say I am a king. To this end was I born, and for this cause I came into the world, that I should bear witness for the truth. Everyone that is of the truth hears my voice.
Truth. What is truth? I find no fault in the man.
But he has stirred up the people.
Yes, he's spoken
Pre-sedition
against
to be
Caesar.
king himself. All over Judea, from here to Galilee.
From Galilee? Is he a Galilean?
Yes, he comes from Nazareth.
Then he comes under Herod's jurisdiction, not mine. Centurion.
Yes, Your Excellency.
Have the prisoner taken to the Tetrarch.
But Excellency, we found him. Wait, if you'll give us just a moment.
Herod asked him 100 questions, but the Nazarene gave him no answer. He demanded that Jesus perform a miracle for his amusement. Jesus held his silence. And finally mocking him, Herod had him robed in purple, to befit your kingship, he said, and ordered me to take him back to the governor. Little as I knew the man, and hardened as a soldier of Rome must be, my heart went out to him. I reported all that had happened to the governor, and again he went to the Nazarene's accusers.
You brought the man to me as one who incites the people. I questioned him. I found no fault in him. No guilt in the things of which he was accused. No, nor did Herod. The prisoner's done nothing to merit death. I will have him chastised and then released.
No!
He found no wrong in the man, no guilt, and yet he ordered him to be flogged.
Perhaps it was to save the Nazarene's life. That Pilate thought a flogging would appease them.
Pilate is the governor. He speaks for the emperor. Since when has Roman justice been betrayed to appease the men of a conquered land? Perhaps I do our governor an injustice. Yet I feel that he was more eager to humble Caiaphas than to help an innocent man. Be that as it may, he made another attempt. You're all familiar with the custom of releasing a prisoner to the people at the time of the feast.
Yes, we know.
Well, after Jesus had been flogged, they brought him before the governor once more. The soldiers had made him a crown of thorns.
You have heard how many things they have witnessed against you. They say you call yourself the Son of God. Who are you? From where do you come? Why don't you answer? Don't you realize I have the power to release you or crucify you?
You could have no power at all against me, except it were given you from above. Therefore, he that delivered me to you has the greater sin.
If you release that man, you're no friend of Caesar's.
I bring him before you so you may know I find no fault in him. Behold, the man. By custom, as at each Passover, I will free a prisoner to you. Will you have me release for you the King of the Jews? What then shall I do with Jesus called Christ? Innocent of this man's blood. See to it yourselves. Release Barabbas.
And so Pilate backed down once more. But he had one final taunt for Caiaphas and his cohorts. He ordered a sign for the Nazarene's cross, saying, "This is the King of the Jews." While he hung on the cross, those who had persecuted him came to mock him.
You're the Son of God. Come down from the cross.
Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do.
If you are the Christ, save yourself and save us.
Do you not fear God? You who are condemned? You and I are condemned justly. We have received the due reward for our deeds. But this man, he's done nothing wrong. Jesus, Lord, remember me when you come into your kingdom.
Verily I say to you, today you shall be with me in paradise.
When my hours of duty ended, I could not keep away. I made my way to the hilltop and found my friend Longinus in charge. He still lives. As we stood watching, the Nazarene's mother came up the hill, accompanied by her sister and two of her son's followers.
Woman, behold thy son. Behold thy mother.
I wanted to leave, but I couldn't. The 7th hour passed, and the 8th.
My God. My God. Why have you forsaken me? I thirst. Father, into thy hands I commend my spirit. It is finished.
That evening, a wealthy man, Joseph of Arimathea, came to the procurator, asking permission to place the Nazarene's body in his own new tomb. Pilate granted the request. No sooner had the man left, however, than Caiaphas' messengers came shouting protests. It seemed the Nazarene had made predictions of rising from the grave, and they who feared him in life were now suspicious that his followers would steal his body and claim his forecast fulfilled. So, to humor them, Pilate gave orders for a guard to be placed at the tomb.
It was very kind of you to take the time to tell us. I wish we could have seen more of the Nazarene while he lived, even though he was not the Redeemer of the Scriptures. Still, he was a wise and gentle man, a great teacher.
His death is a real loss.
He is not dead.
But you said he was crucified, that he died on the cross.
I did.
But then how can you say that he's not...
Listen. My friend, Longinus, drew the duty of guarding the sepulchre. On the last night of the week, I went with him on his late inspection.
Well, I'd better go no farther.
You mean you stay here with your men?
Orders, I thought you knew.
No. Caiaphas idea. He assumes all soldiers can be bribed. Well, I've done harder jobs for the Empire.
Me too. More than I foresaw when I received my first pilum and gladius.
That's a long time back for both of us.
Long time. A lot of marches, good many scars. You know something? Life on a farm of one's own might not be so unbearable. In Tuscany or Umbria. Or the Valley of the Po. I remember the grapes.
The light. The light.
Man, pull yourself together. You tremble, that was all.
No. No, the figure.
What figure?
I don't know. One with shining robes so bright, I was dazzled, then I...
Pilate will never believe this. You'll have to. When all your men tell the same story. Get them ready. I'll go with you.
Perhaps I should leave one or more of my men here.
To guard what? An empty tomb? As I learned later from Thomas, the woman of Magdala, bearing oils and spices to anoint the body, came to the tomb while the dawn mists were still on the ground. Finding the stone rolled aside and the sepulchre empty, she believed the Nazarene's body had been stolen by his enemies. She ran back to the city and told Peter of her discovery. Together with John, they hurried back to the tomb. John ran ahead, but on reaching the door and seeing the empty tomb, he dropped to his knees, overwhelmed by grief.
Why didn't the guards stop them? How could they have permitted them to... I wonder, why did they remove the grave cloth?
How could we understand the thinking of men who would do a thing like that? Come, we must go tell the others.
You go, Peter. You and John. I want to stay here a while.
Woman, why are you weeping? Whom do you seek?
Because they have taken away my Lord. Sir, if you have carried him away, tell me where you have laid him, and I will take him away.
Mary.
Master.
Do not touch me, for I have not yet ascended to the Father. But go to my brethren and tell them, I am ascending to my Father and your Father, to my God and your God.
The resurrection rumor spread, and so one afternoon, whatever you may say is for my curiosity, not Pilate's. Sit down. You're not under arrest. I've heard wild tales about the Nazarene. Well, having been seen alive. Is there any truth to it?
There are those who say he has risen from the grave.
Do you know any who claim to have actually seen him?
Yes.
Who?
A woman, Mary of Magdala, a man named Cleophas and his friend, who walked with him on the road to Emmaus. And 10 of those who with me have traveled constantly with him these past 3 years.
They've actually seen him? Talked to him?
So they say.
And do you believe them?
I don't know. I was away when he appeared to them. I didn't see him myself.
Are they honest men?
Oh, yes. I'm sure they believe they saw him, but all my life I've been called doubter, skeptic. Until I see him with my own eyes, see the nail holes in his hands, the wound in his side.
I'd like to question the others. Can you arrange it?
I think so. We stay in the upper room of the house where we observe the Passover feast. If you will come there tonight.
A Roman centurion.
He asked to come for his own interest, not as a soldier. Otherwise...
You shouldn't have told him where to find us. Would have been safer if we could have met him somewhere.
Matthew, put the bar on the door while we discuss this. The man may have spoken with sincerity, but if he hasn't...
I think we should leave here, quickly. We can go to Lazarus' home, at least for the night.
Well, that's the first place they'd look for us.
Why wasn't he satisfied with what you told him? Surely that should be enough.
Because I could only say they have seen, but I have not.
But if you had assured him that you believed the Master had risen...
I could not say that. Unless I see in his hands the prints of the nails and place my fingers in the mark and my hand in his side, I will not believe.
Peace be with you.
Master.
Thomas, come to me. Put your finger here and see my hand. Put out your hand and place it at my side. Do not be faithless, but believing. My Lord and my God. Have you believed because you have seen me? Blessed are those who have not seen and yet believe.
Cornelius, he lives. I've seen. There is no doubt.
When? Where?
Just now in the room. He took my hand and placed it on his wounds. Didn't you see him? You must have passed him on the stairs.
On the stairs? His robe, your master's robe, brushed my arm. My friends, you can cease discussing the teachings of a wandering rabbi and start worshiping the risen Son of God. It was no mortal man that Thomas and the others followed, no leader of a small group or of one land. He was the leader of all men, of Victor, not over mere human enemies, but over death itself. With all that is left to me of life, I shall tell his story. Jesus lives. He is the hope, the only hope of all mankind. I know, for I beheld his glory.
Rise, crowned with light, imperial sail and rise. Legs of thy glory head and lift thine eyes. See him its sparkling portals wide display, and break upon thee in all flood of day.
There's just so many people pulling me in so many different directions, Jack. I don't think I can handle it.
Then offer it up, kid.
What does that mean?
I'm not the best to explain this. My grandmother, she was, but I'll try. Whenever we go through something that we don't want to go through, or something we just can't handle, she would say, offer it up, meaning offer it up to Jesus.
What would Jesus do with our suffering?
That's a good question, and honestly, I don't know, but he accepts it. I know that much.
You offer your suffering up to Jesus?
Daily, hourly, by the minute sometimes.
It works.
It does.
I don't know. I don't know much about religion or Christianity or stuff like that. I don't really know what I believe when it comes to God. Bunsen, he has tried to teach me, and sometimes I feel close to God. But then life happens, and I get like this, and it just feels like God is far away.
Maybe it's more like you're far away from him.
Maybe. I don't know. I once heard that if a person reached a point where they simply couldn't handle anymore, all they had to do is really want to not exist, and they would just vanish. Cease to exist. Be no more. All they had to do is want it enough.
Yeah, kid, I've heard those stories as well. It's the stuff of legend. Fairy tales. Life is tough, Elmer, and you have to face it, not run away from it. The only way to solve your problems is face them head on, not bury your head in the sand and hope they'll walk away from you. You've got to be brave, stay your course, and stand your ground when the time comes. There's no other choice. Otherwise, you'll just live your entire life in fear. That's just no life at all. Just no life at all. Elmer? Elmer, where'd you go? Elmer, are you there? Oh my.